What's up, YouTube? We are back with episode 10 of Sideline Chatter with Vic. As always, Sideline Eli here with my guy Vic. And we're going to be talking strictly some NBA and some NASCAR on this episode here tonight, as we are finally at the weekend. So, got some Daytona 500 to talk about later, as well as the race coming up. But we're going to kick things off with a little bit of NBA, starting with the absolute nightmare that is the current all-star situation. So, those of you that don't know, Sunday's NBA All-Star game specifically, so not three-point contest, not the dunk contest, but specifically the All-Star game drew 4.72 million viewers, which is the second lowest that they have pulled, with the first lowest being in 2023, in which they only saw 4.5. So, not even a full 200,000 person or viewer difference. And both these within the last two out of the last three All Star games, excuse me. So, really, what we're looking at here is essentially the death of the All Star game. Um, Personally, we talked a little bit about it on last episode. Neither one of us were really feeling the current setup where they had, three different teams and it was like a mini tournament style. First team to 40 advances that round. And it pretty much went as we said, which was it was funky. It was weird. Vic, how did you feel? I mean, I caught not the whole thing, but I caught a good chunk of it. I don't know if you did.
What I heard, watched it live, there was more ad time running than there was actual games. They said it was like over half the time that they were there. It's half they're running ads. I think there was a halftime in between games,
Yeah.
and that's just like a lot. That's just like unnecessary. You're only going to 40, not 40 top. You're supposed to have like the NBA's best. Like it's not like you guys are exonerating yourself to the maximum extent this weekend, but it's like at least put on a little bit of a show because the games weren't even really that close.
No, they went about as expected with the roster breakdown. Who was it? Was it Draymond Green? I think it was Draymond Green that just absolutely ripped having the rising stars playing on All Star Night. But obviously, LeBron decided that he was too injured to play, so he didn't even participate, even though his team he was on wound up winning it all. Um, it was just bad. It was really bad. It was easily, in my opinion, the worst format they've tried to roll out. I don't know. They just keep trying to reinvent the wheel here for All Star Weekend, and like the dunk contest, fire. 3-point contest. I mean, it's a 3-point contest, but it's always entertaining if you ask me. The dunk contest was, I mean, it's not the best one we've ever had, but I mean, McClung pulled out some bangers. I mean, he did, and that's why he got the three-peat, which actually insane for him. So I think it was one of the better dunk contests we've had, at least recently. We've had some duds the past couple years.
We've seen that all the actual stars like Ja Morant and Giannis are like, hey, we should probably try to get into this. Now, I wonder if they're actually gonna stay to their word and be like, hey, yeah, let's actually kind of turn it up next year because this is kind of like a lit event now. It's one of the more sought out events over the weekend,
It might be
definitely.
it probably is the most sought out event at this point.
Of course, and then I got seen Zach Levine and Aaron Gordon talking. Maybe we should run it back one more time because as fans, like you want to see like the best perform, you know, against each other, even though it's not like like legit games or partially meaningless. It's still fun for us to watch, and especially for the people who actually buy tickets to go to that weekend to see all that stuff. The celebrity games kind of whatever. It's a celebrity game. You're not going to
It's
see like
fun.
yeah, you're not going to see like the most outrageous basketball plays of all time. But it's just something to do. But I feel like if the NBA wants to fill their stands and fill the ratings more, they got to have these people have like pride because they get paid so much money to do this sport, and for them to just like kind of not care, it's just kind of like ruining All Star Weekend altogether.
Yeah, I mean
Like the
back
skill. Did you see the skills challenge? Chris Paul and Wembanyama.
Got disqualified for essentially cheating.
Yeah,
It's
they weren't
kind of
even
funny
trying on
though.
a shot. They weren't even trying on the shots. Like at least Wembanyama's shots, they went up and actually kind of hit the rim. CP3,
He
he
just
just
chucked him.
chuck, and didn't even care. And then he was like, he was trying. He spent 30 minutes explaining to the guy like, "Well, this is what's in the rule book. We didn't really do anything wrong. We just didn't attempt a shot to your extent." And then he's like, "Well, Adam Silver said you're disqualified. We can't be having that."
I mean, that's CP3. That's CP3 right there, man. He likes to use that noggin of his, but I didn't necessarily have a problem. I thought it was funny. It was entertaining. Made it entertaining. It even made it more entertaining that they got disqualified. Yeah, I don't think this Saturday events are an issue at all. It's the All-Star game itself. But like you said, I mean, back in the 90s, even in the early 2000s, the guys still cared. You know, they still wanted to go out, put on a show, but ultimately they wanted to win, you know. Guys like Jordan obviously always wanted to win.
Dwayne
So,
Wade when he was like point 0.3 seconds off the skills challenge when he was playing for the Heat.
yeah, I mean, the dunk contest used to be everyone try. I mean, obviously we remember, you know, Dwight, JaVale McGee, Blake Griffin, you know, Aaron Gordon, Levine. We were talking about. You were talking about. Um, it's just like you said, just if we can get the stars, incentivize all the actual best of the best to give it their all. But at the same time, I think it's become more of a vacation period for them where they're just there to have fun, you know, mess around and relax, which I'm not mad at them for that. But as a result, you know, that's where these ratings are coming into play. And that's why they keep trying to reinvent the wheel specifically with All Star. Well, they've done some weird things with the dunk contest in the past couple years too. I don't know really, other than like we said, incentivizing the stars to come out and perform and give it their all. But in my humble opinion, I'm not a big fan of Adam Silver. He just he likes to, I know I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I do want to say one last time, he just wants to keep reinventing the wheel with all of these weird changes. We talked about it previously, talking about, you know, 10-minute quarters, shaving time down, you know, he just I think he just gets too ahead of himself. You know, we just the classic format is all we really need, and then we just need the guys to come out and actually play. It's really all you. That's all you need. And I think just ultimately that just going back to the basics is all they really need to do. I don't really know what's in store for next year, but obviously we're going to see most likely we're going to see changes again. We're not going to see the same format. I would be shocked if we saw the same format. Looking at the ratings right now, but yeah, just take it take it seriously and get back to the basics. I think that's really all they need to do.
I don't know. It for me, it's just a money standpoint. You get paid if you get paid a lot of money to do stuff like that. At least do something back for the fans. I get like not wanting to get hurt or whatever, but you're not. Who gets hurt during the All Star break?
Yeah, I don't
Other
know.
than other than Victor Wembanyama, who is out for the season right now. He caught a blood clot in his shoulder.
So that's what that
Something.
was. I missed
It's
it.
something. It's something that like Chris Bosh had, but he Chris Bosh got his like later in his career, so it's kind of like he was already kind of done.
Okay.
So they caught this in Wemby's shoulder because they he said he wasn't feeling good. They saw his energy was low, so when he got tested, they
Hmm.
found that, and the Spurs are just kind of like, you know what, we're not going to make you play on it. We're just going to invest in the future, pretty much, and just kind of sit him out for the rest of the year,
That's
which
crazy.
sucks.
Someone claims to have put like 10 bands on Wemby winning defensive player of the year for like a not even a $300 payout. I hope for his sake that was a Photoshop ticket, but man, I mean, do they usually avoid that stuff if stuff like this happens, yeah, or no?
No,
Really?
no.
Man.
There's certain times that stuff will get voided, I remember like sometimes whenever you have a bet and if they meet that bet but they don't exceed it or go under it, that's just a void bet on its own. But there are times where like There's a time where Mike Evans got hurt one time in a football game. They avoided all bets with that because a lot of people complained.
Yeah.
Sometimes in that scenario they will, but if you're placing like a long term bet, then that's kind of your own fault. But Wemby was definitely he was a MVP candidate this year. I do believe so. Now he won't
I
even
mean,
be able to make it the rest of the year.
oh yeah, no. That's I saw people were talking about, yeah, with Wemby, that's crazy, but I didn't actually see what happened. So yeah, that is indeed crazy. How do you even, I know you probably don't know the answer to that. We're not doctors, but how do you even like recover from that? You know what I mean? Like, is that
From a
because
blood
like,
clot,
so like we talked about, I mean, you mentioned Bosch. That's not really something that, I mean, I guess like you said, tail end of his career, so he just packed it in. But yeah, is that something you just recover from? How does that even work?
they just, it's I would imagine they just kind of just get rid of the clot. Obviously, surgical process and just repair the vein and then just kind of let that repair on its own. But like obviously, whatever that vein connects to, it's gonna affect whatever else is around it. Whether it be shoulder, leg, whatever. Because you always hear about people getting blood clots in their leg and having to get surgery to get that done,
Hmm.
or worst case scenario, they got to cut it off. Obviously, you can't cut off the entire shoulder
Yeah,
case, but I think for Wembanyama's sake, I keep wanting to say Victor, but my name's Victor, so it's kind of like
yeah.
it's weird. But for Victor's sake, he it's better that they catch it now and then just let him sit. That way he can just sit, heal, and then just get ready for next season. Because he's gonna have CP3, I would assume, if he doesn't retire. De'Aaron Fox, Sochan, like he's still gonna have a squad, and they're gonna be ready for
Oh
next
yeah.
year.
I mean, depending on how good or not they are, they might even wind up with a better draft pick. You know what I mean?
And
But
then I don't know if you
that's
caught
crazy.
this also, but Bobby Portis is suspended for the rest of the year.
I did for PEDs, right? But it was something really stupid. What was it?
They said his assistant gave him the wrong medication.
But it was like painkillers, right?
Yeah,
I don't really get that one.
I mean it's pretty much kind of like Percocets you get caught with,
Yeah, but like if he's
but
injured, are you not allowed
he
to take
got
painkillers?
but the tests were from back in like November, so they didn't catch him until 3 months later after All Star and said,
That I didn't
"Hey,
know.
you're done for the year." So this wasn't like a recent injury. This is from an injury like way early in the year that they're finally catching up
Yeah.
on it. Like,
I just don't
oh,
understand it.
yeah,
They're not allowed to get painkillers when they get injured.
certain drugs are banned in the NBA, like certain substances, and one of the substances
Yeah.
that he took uh, was mishandled by his assistant, and I guess he was given the wrong one.
Hmm.
I don't know how that works. I don't know. I mean, you're a grown man. I think you should be able to, right?
I mean, as long as you're like a, I mean, I get it. If I guess it depends. Was he playing through the pain with the pain killers, or was he rehabbing? You know what I mean? I feel like if
Probably
you're just
both. Yeah. But I mean, I think at some point he did get tested like after a game or something, and they could have been in his system.
so yeah, I guess that's the big difference. I'd have to look more into that. I mean, if you're just rehabbing, I don't see how that should matter. But if you're playing with them, I guess I get it. It's still weird to me.
It's like when they had weed banned for the longest time. They were like, well, this isn't like a drug that we agree with, so we're just gonna have to ban whoever uses it. Same as like any like painkiller or whatever. Because if some painkillers are stronger than others, so they can subside pain.
Oh yeah,
But from a health standpoint, that's not good because if you're just playing through it, hurt even more. It's going to cost the NBA a little bit more money in the injury insurance pocket.
yeah. I mean, we see it in the NFL all the time.
So I
Perk
mean,
Rogers.
that's crazy. That's crazy to admit that like you're playing on Percocet,
Oh yeah,
even like years later. Then it's like, oh, cool. The NFL has a drug problem. Like when wrestling, back when Chris Benoit, thing. Then they started cracking down on the steroids being an issue. They're like, "Oh, we can't have this no more." Granted, I think the man was insane already, but it's a good thing they checked in on the steroid drug abuse because now a lot of wrestlers don't abuse that no more. They're all physically fit on their own.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually been rewatching a lot of the Attitude Era, and it was insane. I mean, if you rewatch '90s and early 2000s, they were all just huge, and you're like, man, all these guys are on steroids. Like, this is abnormally large, and it's like the entire roster, you know. So yeah, it's definitely an issue, and it's never gonna fully go away. That's why it's such a double-edged sword. It's just like, yeah, you use the drugs, just not the ones we allow you to use. It's like they're all doing the same stuff, really, if you think about it. And I don't really get how it's a performance enhancing drug because I feel like if anything, you're just high as a kite. I mean, if
I will
anything.
say, I will say, some steroids they really like
Now
make you
steroids, yeah, I
a
get that.
different person.
But like you said, like for like Bobby Portis's case, like he wasn't taking steroids, he was taking painkillers. If
Oh,
anything, that just
I don't mean like any injections. I just mean like some like painkiller medicines all like just have steroids in them,
that's true. Yeah.
just naturally. So you're in another plane of Earth at that point. Not as certain like as like high off of them, but like you just won't feel like a lot of contact or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's true. That is true. But I'm still I don't know, I'm still skeptical on it because I feel like I'm not trying to like start nothing because I personally I love LeBron. I think LeBron's, the GOAT. But I just feel like to be playing how he's playing at 40, like bro's gotta have been taking something. You know what I mean?
I don't know. It's kind of like I think athletes nowadays are more invested in their bodies than they were before. Outside
Oh
of
yeah.
illegal injections, of course. I remember Russell Wilson he pays like $1 million a year to keep his
As I
body in
said,
shape.
LeBron said that as well a couple years ago. He's like a million or more a year on like dietitians, workout programs, chefs, all that stuff. So it's definitely and just
Therapy.
genetics. I mean, he's always been a freak of nature. So it's
I
definitely
think
possible.
that's what I think that's what differentiates him from Michael Jordan. Like Jordan was athletic, he could ball, but he never was like, the biggest guy on the court. He never was like the toughest guy on the court.
Yeah,
But he was
prime Bron was insane.
very
6'8",
skilled.
250.
But like you see LeBron, you can see him now at 40, he's still jacked. I remember seeing him one time in the he was playing the Bulls. That man is just huge.
And he's got the speed, always had the speed combo in there too. So yeah, he really is just a genetic freak.
Yeah, so I think nowadays it's like the athletes as soon as they get into the league, they're like, okay, I gotta start taking care of my body because I'm an investment and I need to be on my top of my game or I'm not gonna be here any longer. Jamar Chase is the same example because he put in like what was it, like a $50 million insurance on himself?
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
And this was whenever he was going through his contract dispute last year with the Bengals because the Bengals, they're being cheap, they're not wanting to pay, franchise tag, all that sort. And he ended up buying like it's like a 50 or an $80 million insurance on himself. But let me look it up real quick. His insurance policy was $50 million to protect himself from injury and lost earnings.
Huh. That's
I'm
genius.
surprised I got I'm surprised I got that on the nose to be honest with you.
Yeah. I didn't even
But
know that.
but once he gets that deal done, he's gonna I think he won't need that anymore. And all the guaranteed money he's about to get, they're gonna like pay for himself and keep his body in shape. But now these athletes nowadays, I think they're taking different avenues rather than like the old school routes that players from like the '80s to like the early 2000s were taking. And since the FDA has really cracked down on it, and the athletic commissions of pretty much any sport have cracked down on it, drugs are pretty much like getting non-existent nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely nothing like what it used to be back in the day, like at all. especially, we all know what happened with like, throughout the past of the MLB. So yeah, it's definitely just a whole different ball game. Um, it's just it is crazy to see other guys get you know into that mid 30s area, and they're just nothing like Braun. It is insane. His longevity is it's like a Wilt Chamberlain 100-point game. We might never you probably will never see anything like it again.
Well, the bad part about Braun's game right now, though, is that he can't finish. He's not clutch. He's 1 for 29 since joining the Lakers on the having clutch threes.
That's like low key always been something with him. Like even back in his prime, like game sevens, closeout games, things like that. I don't say he's not clutch at all, but he's definitely never been.
The go-to guy.
Yeah, no, he's definitely never been, a Melo, a Kobe, a Steph, a Jordan. That's never been his. I don't even know if I would say that's his weakness, but it's definitely close. That and free throws. I mean, he's not a bad free
Mhm.
throw shooter, but it's like a
I
career
mean,
like under 80, I think.
I feel like when you play 21 years, you're not going to have the best
Nah, that's
percentage.
like I've always said that about him. Like his main weakness has always been free throw shooting, but the clutch thing has came and gone. Where he's had his moments, so that's why I said I don't know if I would call it a weakness, but it's definitely something that he's dealt with in the past. So yeah, he's a career 77% free throw shooter. No, I'm sorry, he's a career 73% free throw shooter. Let's see, what are his highs and lows? LeBron James has never shot 80% or better from the free throw line his entire career. That's actually insane. His fourth year in the league, he shot 69%. It was 698, so it was basically 70%. But I mean, he's always been low 70s.
He's
71, 78, 76, 75, 77, 75, 75, 71, 73, 67. It's it's literally been his only weakness like ever. Consistently.
Yeah, but he still scores like 25, 30 a game,
Oh yeah, I mean it's yeah.
which is not insane on its own. So he's not like a
It's
free. It lets you know he's not like a free throw merchant, like what people would say, like SGA would be.
Nah, I
Like you get a
mean
lot of your points from the free throw line rather than like hack and slash on a two for a layup or a three or just putting up the shot.
7.5 free throw attempts per game over his career. He only hit double digits 3 times way early in his career. Year 3, he averaged 10.3 attempts. 5, he averaged 10.3. And year 7, he was at 10.2. For the most part, he's floated in that 7 range. So, yeah, no, not at all. Which is actually crazy to think about because he thrived inside a lot, at least in his Miami days. I know that. So, that actually is insane. But definitely his only real weakness. But like I said, he's dealt with the clutch or lack thereof um, issues in the past as well. But speaking of LeBron and the Lakers, it's still really early, but so far I feel like that trade has kind of been an L for both teams. Like Doncic just doesn't look comfortable yet. In fact, they finally won a game without him. He didn't play. And obviously, we know AD got hurt in his Mavericks debut before the All Star break. So
Max
it's
Christie's been playing solid. I'll give him that.
Austin Reeves has been hooping since. So that's hilarious. I mean, he's a good player, but I just feel like until they figure out, they got to figure out the right balance with Braun and Luka, where Luka's used to being the LeBron, that role, the motor, offense flowing through him. And now he's got to learn to play with him, which has kind of been the case for LeBron his entire career. You know, he was the man in Cleveland. He goes to Miami, Dwayne Wade's team, but Wade takes the sidekick role. Bosh is the third man.
Ray
learned to
Allen.
play with LeBron, and then he goes to second stint in Cleveland. Kevin Love had to learn, and Kyrie had to learn to play with LeBron. So all of those pieces, in my opinion, fit really well with LeBron. In fact, funny enough, I think the most odd piece was Dwayne Wade, and that's debatably his best duo teammate, although they were both like in their prime. But Kyrie, Kevin Love, both excellent compliments. Doncic, on the other hand, that's why the trade was a little confusing to me. I get why the Lakers did it. LeBron's 40. He's only going to play for another year, maybe two. So that's Luka's team once LeBron's out of there. And AD's what, 32? Something like that.
I
So I
mean, you
can
can't stay healthy for the life of him.
no. So I completely understand it for the future. But for the right now, Luka's just not a good complementary piece to LeBron's game because they essentially play the same type of point forward, flow it through me, let guys work off of me type of style. And yeah, Doncic is just kind of floating around the 3-point line right now when he is playing. And it's been pretty ugly actually. Um
Yeah, I've seen his stats lately. He's been having a hard time adjusting to the Lakers system. I feel like they're all the chemistry. Obviously, the chemistry is just not there with any of them
no.
at the moment, other than like the other people who have been around. Um, when it, when you see Luca and the Mavericks, he was a superstar. Like you said, everything flowed through him. Even with Kyrie on the team, like they just worked great together. Because Luca still plays kind of like he plays like a point guard almost when he
Yeah.
plays. He's going for the he's going for the rebounds. He's going for the assists. He's finding like the open man, spreading the floor around. And I think with all the eyes on supposedly like him, whenever he got traded, it kind of opens up more avenues for Austin Reeves to go ball out, Jackson Hayes, LeBron, obviously. But if they're not playing good, and Luca's on the consistent shooting slump that he's been having, then the Lakers aren't really going to make it out of even like the play in at this point.
Yeah, they what are the current standings looking like? I mean, they are fifth, so they're good for now, but there's, a lot can happen in the next 30
I,
games or
I don't
so.
think, yeah, I don't think their fifth is like a strong fifth though. I think
No.
because the West is pretty close between like fourth and like ninth.
Basically from third to yeah, I mean ninth, 28 and 10th really cuz both Golden State and Sacramento who are playing each other tonight are both 28 and 27. Even Phoenix. I mean honestly, San Antonio still would have been in it if they had Wemby at 24 and 29. The West is just kind of stacked really, but I mean, to what you just said, I'm having glasses malfunction here. To what you just said, the last game that Luca played was against the Hornets, in which they lost 197. To his credit, he almost had the triple double 14 points, 8 assists, 11 rebounds, but he shot 5 of 18 from the floor, but more importantly, 1 of 9 from three. That is just insane because it's kind of like what we just talked about, where he's kind of just floating around the 3-point line right now. And then
Obviously, I think they're letting him just kind of do whatever he wants. Also, because JJ Redick's his first year's coaching. I don't think he understands like what he's doing. He's just kind of like taking it all in, raveling in the LeBron is my, LeBron's my
the
little
coach.
pup. Yeah. And yeah, I just feel like I feel like at by the end of the season he'll probably get more comfortable with his role, whatever that may be, whether he's the number one, number two guy. But I do think it is going to be tough for him to if he does play like a number two still to LeBron to kind of understand like that ball like hey I'm not the sole proprietor for this team I'm not the big guy as I was in Dallas. I have to kind of take a step back, you know keep doing what I'm doing perimeter the floor, manage the floor, make sure I'm finding the open man, which is no problem. But at this point, it's just be confident, hit your shots, get your 20, 22, 25 a game.
So I mean, right now LeBron is taking 5.8 threes a game and he's hitting 39%. Pretty darn good. I I almost want to say, LeBron needs to kind of take that back seat, be the second guy, and not necessarily be a spot up shooter, but I do think the Lakers would be better off if it is flowing through Luka. That's what he's more used to. And of course, that's what LeBron's used to. But as we've said a couple times, LeBron's 40 years old. How, I mean, we see how effective it is him being trying to play like he was when he was still 28 to 33 ish, 34 ish. Not that he can't do it, he just put up 40, but I don't think it's in Luca's best. That's the thing. Luca's, like you said, not comfortable, and ultimately, if they want to make some real noise, he has to be comfortable and flowing. Otherwise, they got rid of AD for nothing. Real, not nothing, obviously, but AD was, in my opinion, was a lot better of a compliment to LeBron and what they're doing than Luca is. But again, that was for their future. And then I wish we had more to talk about for the Mavs, but as we said, AD got, it's not funny, but he got hurt in his debut game, which he was dominating in. But that's kind of what we talked about when the trade went down. They're both kind of injury prone guys, and Luca is also hurt right now. Um, but Luca hasn't really had any super serious, like, killer injuries that are going to absolutely keep him sidelined. Like, I'm sure if this was the playoffs, he'd be playing right now. AD, on the other hand, it's a different story. And it's a groin injury that he has right now. And I think it's a re aggravation of his injury, which is usually worse than it being a fresh injury of some sort. So I don't really know. I don't really know what that timetable is, but like as of right now, the Mavericks are just, they took a big old L on that trade, like without a doubt. Which they are also playing right now. They're playing the Pelicans. So we'll keep an eye on both of them moving forward. As we said, there's what, like 30-ish games left on the season. So a lot of basketball left to be played. Plenty of time for Luka and the Lakers to find a groove. Plenty of time for AD to get back on the court and do something for the Mavericks. Although they're sitting at that eighth seed, and as we just said, everything's pretty tight down there. So if he doesn't get back and get right soon, they could slip out of that play-in bracket and kind of have a lost season here. But I
So I do want to say Max Christie has been having decent stats playing. Since February 4th, he's had 15, 15, 23, 15, 17, 19, and 12. The 19 was off his worst game. He shot 3 for 11 for 3 point, 8 for 19 altogether for field goal. But he's a consistent role player. He's getting about 5 rebounds a game, 4 assists. It looks like almost. He's really fit into his role in the Mavs pretty well. He's been very consistent. Obviously, the 12 points, 14 minutes was today.
Yeah, he's 5 of 5 from the floor, 2 of 2 from three.
And is the game still going right now?
Yeah, they just came out of the half. 58-57 Dallas.
Yeah, so don't be surprised if he pulls up a ball. But like that was my point. That like obviously the stars of that trade aren't performing as stars, but I think Max Christie is definitely a sleeper in this whole entire deal.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, with everything kind of going on, he I don't know about being the successor to Kyrie Irving, but if Kyrie's out of there after the season, then he definitely could become a lot more of a factor for sure. I mean, I saw some rumors that Kyrie kind of was there for Luka, but
Oh, I mean, that's no secret. That everyone knew everyone knew he was there for Luka, and then to kind of like backdoor him like that, like I'm sure he's happy he got AD out of it, but it's not his ideal person. And I'm sure he feels betrayed just as much as the Dallas fans do as well, because it's happened behind his closed doors as well.
yeah, the Jason Kidd as well. It would be honestly insane and hilarious if Kyrie decided to make his way to the Lakers.
I don't think that'll happen.
Nah, me
I,
neither.
I don't even know what team he would go to at this point.
He's only 33, right? He's not old yet.
He's not,
32. He's 32.
I don't, but I don't know which team would what they would give up for Kyrie Irving and where he would go to. I'm not saying like he's bad by any
No,
means or
no,
anything
no.
like that. It's just kind of hard to find a new
Trying to
home.
think. I mean, Orlando would be cool with Paolo, but they're not like contenders. Yeah, like all the contenders don't really need point guard. Denver, but I mean, they don't really need a point guard necessarily either. I mean, Jamal Murray's not a point guard, and Russ is actually playing pretty well within his role. But yeah,
He's
I
like a
don't.
six man. Isn't he?
Yeah, but yeah, looking at the contenders. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, not Boston, not again.
That is Devin Booker a point guard,
No, he's a shooting guard.
but the Suns
Yeah, that would be crazy. KD,
eh,
Book, Kyrie.
get rid of Bradley Beal finally.
I mean, he'd be cool in New Orleans with Zion, but they're bottom of the barrel, 13-42.
Yeah, when Zion barely plays.
The Bucks aren't really an option because they got Damian Lillard.
Giannis might be
Pacers
out of there
have,
too.
yeah, that's true. Pacers have Halliburton. The Knicks have Brunson. Like I
The
said,
Grizzlies might
Celtics
be.
are an option.
There's been rumors the Grizzlies might be shopping John Moran as well.
Really? I don't know if I see that. He's like a perfect fit there, and they're what 36-19. Yeah, 36-19. The 76ers.
We got Tyrese Maxey though.
Yeah, but he kind of plays more like a guard. He plays more like a shooting guard than a point guard. But no, I guess I mean, he's a great point guard, or at least he's just a great player, really. Yeah,
You know,
I really don't. Orlando is probably honestly one of the best landing spots for a potential Kyrie Irving move, but they're not really contenders.
and I don't
I
think he's
guess
gonna want to go
Denver.
to a team. He's definitely not gonna want to go to a team that's outside looking in.
It's got to be Denver. That's
Magic
the
are a good team. Sacramento is another team that could probably use a point guard.
Yeah. He ain't going to Sacramento.
Now that Fox is out,
Denver is the only true contender that doesn't really have at least not a Kyrie Irving level point guard. That would actually, I mean, they'd probably win another ring if he did that.
what about the Clippers?
The Clippers are booty cheeks. The
I think James
Rockets would
Harden.
be interesting.
Yeah, but they got Jalen Green as a point guard, right?
Yeah, does he really play point guard? He's more of a wing, right? Ah, man, I don't know.
I think it's tough. It's like the NBA is so stacked now. It's like where are you gonna find a new home?
It's not that like I mean the NBA is really I think it's even though the viewership's an issue, the NBA is really spread out evenly, I think, right now. But it's like all of the true contenders are good at point guard. Cavs got Garland. Celtics just aren't an option, I would assume. Knicks have Brunson. Pacers have Halliburton. Bucks
That'd
have
be that
Lillard.
would be
Excuse
crazy
me.
if they Celtics took him back.
I mean, it would absolutely. That would be the honestly the perfect spot. They're the only contender that don't have a legitimate point guard on their roster.
Who is their point guard? Is it Derek White?
Yes, I believe that's the starter.
Because Drew
Or
Holiday
Drew
is not a.
Holiday. It's Drew.
Is it Drew?
Yeah.
No.
He makes 30 million too.
Yeah, he's got a good contract.
How much does Okay, 34 for Tatum. Jalen Brown makes $49 million. Okay.
And Tatum's supposed to be the starter team.
That's insane. And then KP as well. That would be an insane team when healthy. Could you imagine a starting five of Kyrie Irving, Jalen Brown, Tatum, Porzingis, and then I mean, does Porzingis pretty much play center for them?
Yeah,
That would be easily the most stacked starting four in the league. They don't even need a fifth man at that point. They could just play four. They could play 4-on-5 and still probably win games.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Kyrie's actually on the move or not. Especially if, like I said, AD gets back and gets right, because that is a good duo, Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis. But that guy is always on the bench,
It's
man.
it's a tough scene for I definitely for him because without Luca, that kind of ruins his future plans. And I'm sure him and his agent are having talks about what kind of moves are going to make this off season. What if Chris Paul retires? He could go to the Spurs.
Yeah, but I mean, De'Aaron Fox is not guaranteed to be there, I think, past this season, but I'm going to assume he's not going anywhere.
So
Um,
I'd probably just sit Aaron at the 2 or 3, and then just let Kyrie play them.
yeah, I mean that's not like out of the realm of possibility. I don't know if I would like. I mean, I wouldn't hate it. Kyrie is under contract through 25-26. So next season would be his last year under contract. Um, yeah. So although it might be a player option, I think it is.
He has the option to play that contract or just test
Yeah,
free.
option to opt out. That what that
Maybe that's
says?
not. Maybe it's an off-season move we can check out for the off-season.
Yeah, I mean that's if that's what if I'm reading it correctly and it is indeed a player option, then yeah, he can absolutely opt out if he doesn't want to be there next season, which would absolutely be crazy. But I again, if he does do that and he wants to play for a contender, I don't see him getting anywhere near that 34 million number. So it's going to be
Oh,
completely up to him. Is it the money or does he want to try to win a ring again? I don't know where Kyrie's head would be at with that. I don't like I said, it really depends on what happens when AD gets back. You know, that's really what it is. How good
Mavs
are
are
they
in the
together?
playoffs right now, are they?
They are. They are the eighth seed, so they're in the play in. But like I said,
Barely though.
depending on because Mavs are 30 and 26. Ninth seed, as I said earlier, is Sacramento. 10th seed is Golden State. They play each other tonight and they're both 28 and 27. So depending on, and then the Mavericks are also playing right now against the Pelicans. They're up one halfway through the third. So depending on how long it takes AD to get back, they could very easily slide right out of that play in. And at that point, then it potentially is a lost season. But with how tight the West is, it's going to be a fight to the end, I think. I mean, unless they fall off a cliff, they're definitely they're in it now, so they definitely wouldn't be out of it. I mean, the biggest threat, in my opinion, to them not getting in at this point, even with 30 some games left, is Phoenix at 26 and 29. San Antonio 24 and 29, but as we talked about earlier, they lost Wemby for the season, so they're kind of cooked. And then after that, you got Portland, Utah, and New Orleans. Utah and New Orleans aren't a threat whatsoever. They're both 13 win teams. Portland's 23 and 33, but they're not a threat.
Portland, they did get some pretty good assets out of the trade deadline. I don't know if it's going to change their season type deal, but I do think that they are a lot better than what they were before All-Star break.
That's not like, wrong by any means. I don't know if they're a threat to take the Mavericks out of the play-in. The only team I see at this point is Phoenix, 26 and 29.
But
Um,
sadly, the play-in is still just like, one and done type
oh
game.
yeah, oh yeah. So
Unless you're 7th, 8th, then you get 2 chances.
they could very easily be that one and done team, but I don't actually know what the timetable. See if I can find it real quick. What Anthony Davis's timetable was for that injury.
I thought it was like at least minimum 2 weeks.
Yeah, he'll be reevaluated 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's considered a left adductor strain, and he will remain out for at least another 2 weeks. And that was announced on Thursday. Suffered the injury on the 8th, missed the team's final 3 games before the All Star break. So at least obviously he got the little All Star break. If you're going to get injured, that's probably the best time right before then, so you don't potentially miss out on another game or two. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how that goes.
I think, this is gonna be an exciting offseason for the
Oh,
NBA.
absolutely. I
Depending
think
on,
some big names are going to
who
be on the move.
yeah, depending on, like, who's in the playoffs, who's still around, who's not. Because I do wanna see if Giannis and Ja are, like, really thinking about testing out the new market, get traded. Because the Bucks franchise is kind of already kinda done
Yeah, I
from
think
what I've seen.
Giannis could. Excuse me. Long week. I hate making statements like this, but I almost feel like it's a guarantee that Giannis is on the move. But I don't think Ja's going anywhere. I don't. The Grizzlies are second seed at 37 and 19, and he's just like a perfect fit there. It's weird.
Scoring a lot of points, but they don't play defense.
What's their differential?
It's very large. They score like 130, 140 a game. I feel like every time I see them play, they just stop
That's
scoring.
not too far off. They're at 122.8, which is tied for second most. It's tied exactly with the Cavs. But they allow 115.8, which is one of the worst marks. It's not the worst,
I mean, yeah, it's
but it's
kind of like
bottom 10, it looks like, just off a glance. A couple guys are at 116 a game, and then a couple of teams are at like 120.
that the Knicks scored 143 against them 7th of January.
Yeah, the Knicks are one of the better offenses in the league as well, but they are also simultaneously one of the worst defenses. That's always fun.
At least it's not the Grizzlies type defense.
Honestly, it's very close. It's very
I think
close.
so. I saw a stat today. The Spurs without Wemby are pretty much kind of like one of the worst defensive teams. Because with Wemby, the Spurs defensive points allowed is about like 103 to 107 around there. But without Wemby, it's like 110 to 115.
That's insane. I'm not surprised. I mean, Wemby is a legitimate defensive player of the year candidate and somebody that you're just not gonna score on down low. I mean, it's same thing with Kristaps Porzingis when he plays. I mean, that's why the Celtics are potentially still the best team in the league. They don't have the best record necessarily, but they are definitely potent. I mean, the best differentials are going to be OKC and Cleveland without a doubt. OKC at 12.9, Cleveland's at 11.2. No one else is in double digits. Celtics are at 9.2. Um, but yeah, like you said earlier, the Lakers aren't really a strong 5 seed. Their differential is plus 0.8. They score 112.9 a game. They allow 112.1. So that is easily I was gonna say easily the worst, but it's actually not. But it's very close to being some of the worst differentials at the playoff caliber teams. Well, if we're not including play in, it's the third worst. The worst out west. Other two teams are both in the East. The Pistons at 0.05 and the Pacers at 0.06. I don't know why I said 0.06, 0.6 and 0.5. So it is. It's at least out west, they're the worst playoff team, and it's not even close, like particularly close. So you nailed that one. But yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be a very exciting offseason for the NBA. I do feel bad for a small market team like the Bucks to potentially lose someone like Giannis. And Memphis would also be considered a small market team. So if they also lose Ja, especially if both of them wind up in a large market, that's kind of an L. But you know where I'd like to see Giannis end up? And I'm not even joking. Charlotte.
I don't know what our money's looking like.
It can't be
I
much.
I've been wanting a big for so long. Obviously, we got Mark Williams back. He didn't do nothing that game though. He really kind of silent. It was mainly just Miles Bridges and LaMelo Ball just kind of having a great day. And our bench really picked up too.
Yeah.
Doing what they had to do just to keep us in the game, stay alive. Um, I do. Some part of me does wish that trade still didn't get like rescinded. They're still investigating like what happened, and I think it's kind of Mark Williams kind of hinted that they kind of failed his physical, maybe on purpose.
Yeah. That's kind of what people were
Just
thinking.
to be like, oh hey, we kind of don't want to do this deal now. We
Cold
don't want to.
feet.
We're probably getting fleeced right now. We're gonna keep Dalton Connect instead. I it still puts a sour taste in my mouth that the Hornets were just like, we're gonna welcome you back as the starting center. Oh, but we're gonna sign Moose to a 2-year deal.
And we're going to
It's all
investigate the
bad news.
trade.
Oh, and by the way, we have Yusuf Nurkic on top of it. I mean, he had a decent game too, but it's just now it feels like we're just overpaying for players that we know we're not gonna keep out, and it's still we still don't have Brandon Miller. He's out for the year as well.
That's something to
And
look
I'm
forward
just
to for next season, though.
Yeah, but I've been saying I'm looking forward to next season for the past like 6 seasons.
I'm just
I'm
a
not
big
a
fan of the duo situation. And honestly, a LaMelo Ball Giannis duo would probably go crazy. Like, Giannis has not played with a LaMelo Ball level point guard. Like, Damian Lillard, yeah, is Damian Lillard, but we're talking past his prime Damian Lillard. You know, if it was 4 years ago, Damian Lillard, completely different scenario. But I think LaMelo Ball and Giannis could arguably one of the better duos in the league. But I don't see him going from a small market team that he had to carry to another small market team that he had to carry. But I don't
in
really
this
see.
instance though. I mean, it's not like he's like the only star player on that
No,
team.
I don't see anywhere else that's like a more perfect fit except for Memphis with Ja Morant. But if Ja Morant's on the move, I don't know. I don't see any other like clear cut perfect scenarios for Giannis, and I just think that'd be freaking perfect.
Speaking of on the move, last Sunday we were on this past Sunday we were both on the move.
Indeed, for a very
NASCAR.
interesting first experience with a NASCAR race for me. Um,
Like you went the
overall,
whole 9 yards.
yeah, for real, I pretty much had the entire experience for my first race. Overall, I actually really enjoyed it. Surprised myself. I went into it with a nice open mind, but I was like, I'm gonna give it, I'm gonna give it the old 1-2. We'll see how it goes. But I did. I had a lot of fun. I mean, we opened up with what was it, a 4 hour delay. We were live for about half of that, and then it was interesting because they decided to get the cars back on the track, and then they stayed in caution for I think it was 10 laps
It's like 10 laps.
for it to drizzle again, and they came back off the track. I definitely got the NASCAR experience because it was one of those things to where someone that again had never watched a race, I had heard my rumors of how NASCAR kind of operates a little funky sometimes, and I was like, why even bring them back out? We know it's supposed to potentially on and off rain until about 6:30, and then after 6:30, the forecast says clear. They got him back on the track at 6 o'clock to pull him back off for it to basically be all clear after 6:30. So had they just waited till 6:30, we would have just gotten the race back up and going for good. But it was a blast, man. It was a really fun time. Um, insane ending, some insane stuff in between. I did. I really enjoyed it and thoroughly looking forward to the race this weekend. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, um, what do you got
The
for
one
us?
thing the one thing that I wish you got to see that didn't show up was green flag pit stops. Because all the pit stops happened during the stage breaks and
Yep.
during the cautions and whatnot. So there wasn't really like a chance for you to see. Because I tried to explain to you how the manufacturers would all try to pit with each other. You know, the Toyotas pit with the Toyotas and the Fords and
Yeah.
the Chevys all pit with each other. I
That's
wish
the
you got to experience
strategic
that.
part of the race.
Yes, because then all they all get a like tandem with each other. By tandem, I mean like car on car on car on car. So you'd be seeing like 5 car drafts throughout the laps as they all take their different pit strategies to manage all their fuel together. But outside of that, yeah, you gotta see all the whole 9 yards, the rain delays of Daytona, the major big crashes, uh, the wild finishes. Like it's pretty much how it's advertised.
Cheaters.
The cheaters as well. Chase Briscoe losing 100 points because
Insane.
his his spoiler that I forgot I didn't mention that to you. The NASCAR penalties that get levied are they're more strict than basketball and
Oh,
football.
100%. He's sitting at like what, negative 60. It's either negative 62 or negative 67 right now.
So, yeah, 67.
67. And then what was it? 100K fine. Uh Crew chief suspended for 4 races. Yeah, NASCAR don't play, man. That's insane. Um I'm still trying to become a fan of like somebody in particular. I mean, obviously I'm sticking with my Joe Gibbs racing, being a Commanders fan. Which funny enough, that's who got knocked. Um, but really being like not locked into any particular driver or team yet, like for like die hard, I just kind of get to enjoy the talents of everyone. It'd be like being an NBA fan, but not being a Knicks fan, right? Like I just get to enjoy LeBron and Kyrie and Giannis and Steph. I just get to enjoy it all. Um, so it really was. It was just kind of, I was kind of watching everyone, and I'm like, man, this guy has it in the bag, and then they don't even win that. How does it broke stage?
Yeah,
Stage, yeah, I forget the exact name, but I was like, "Oh, yeah, this guy definitely won stage 2," but he didn't
it's
because
probably Austin Cindric.
yes, it was that one where I was like, "Okay, well, I assume that, if you led most of this stage, you won." No, it's whoever crosses the line first. It's like, "Ah, okay, okay. I see where we're cooking." It's also interesting that, like, if Briscoe can just basically win a race, he's guaranteed a playoff spot, but he also got docked 10 playoff points, so
So in that case, if he got caught, if you win, this happened actually over the weekend with Parker Kligerman in the
the
truck
truck
race.
race, I saw that, yeah.
He performed stellar the entire day, caught avoided the wrecks and got first place. But then he failed post race tech inspection
It was a height thing,
with
right?
yeah, it was like the left rear was lower like half an inch, and then the right rear is lowered an eighth an inch too low.
Oh my god, an eighth of an inch, that's insane.
So then they gave it to Corey Heim, but he's keeping the checker flag. They appealed the NASCAR decision. They lost sadly. I think it was yesterday or today, and he came out and said, like because Parker he works for NASCAR in a sense, like he does like driver interviews and whatnot. So it's not just a part time driver. He actually works like solely within it, and Man, he's like one of the most unlucky drivers of this generation. Because just the previous season, he was a playoff driver in the Xfinity Series, and he had just won Coda, or this not Coda. He had just won the Charlotte Roval, which is a road course during the playoffs. But they took it away from him because they flew out the caution like the millisecond before he crossed the checkered flag.
Oh my god, how does that even happen?
So, and then NASCAR rules and uh it's technically the white flag, but then NASCAR rules if you don't cross the line and the white flag shows, it goes into overtime. And he got he got screwed pretty much.
Yeah,
It's
that's what
it's
it
like
sounds like.
it's pretty much like the Bret Hart Shawn Michaels Montreal screw job, except this has happened 2 times now.
Yeah, that's insane. Almost as insane as I was gonna say Ryan, but almost insane as Priest's accident.
His name's Ryan Priest.
Is it? Okay, cool, cool, cool. I was like, where did I get that name from? But yeah, I mean, that was just I don't know like where it ranks like NASCAR races, but for me, that was an insane race. Like from
What
almost from
did you
start to finish.
what did you think of Ryan Priest's accident? This is an accident that I've never even seen before. And I watched the sport. I've never seen a car just fly,
Pop a
do a wheel,
wheelie.
pop a wheelie, and then just get to its side and turn over. Usually, with these next gen cars, with the flat underbody, when they turn to the side, and if enough air catches underneath, and since it's so flat, it's gonna flip it over.
Yeah.
But with this one, it was just like straight. It's like an
Took
airplane
flight.
takeoff,
Yeah.
and it just did that for like what 300-400 feet until the car decided to turn with the air,
And that's
and with
when it
the diffuser in the back caught it, and then just kind of flipped it. But you see how easy they flip it going like 170, 180
oh
miles
yeah.
an hour.
So at first I thought he made contact with the car on the inside lane, and that's
That
what
was the
caused the Willie.
43 of Eric Jones.
Yeah, but when you run it back, he really didn't. He didn't. At least if he did, that's not what caused him to pop that wheelie.
So in a way, he did when Cole Custer spun out the leader Christopher Bell on the outside, he hits the wall and as he's gonna have to come
Ricocheted
back.
back. Yeah,
He's gonna come back into traffic. So when he connected with Ryan Priest, and it's kind of like what you saw with Ty Gibbs during the clash, when he popped his wheelie on Justin Haley. But his was only like 20, 30 miles an hour. Ryan Priest is right next to Eric Jones, and it's almost like his tire caught his front end because Eric
yeah.
Jones ended up getting some damage. But with the way like he was already going, it's almost like his car straightened out, and then that wheelie was caused with all the air also pushing underneath that car. So it's like normally, like stuff like that happens. You just pop up, go back down, but it's like going that fast.
Like you said, it was like an airplane takeoff.
He's just going straight, and he's still foot on that gas. At that moment. And as soon as like, right before he turns, his tires lock because he tried hitting the brake thinking that his car he's gonna stop the car. Obviously, that's just human instinct. If you want to stop, you want to hit the brake. But in this instant, whenever he hit the brake and all that air got under the diffuser in the back of the car, just kind of played a domino effect to ended up flipping his car, shooting up into the safer barrier on the outside wall in turn three, and then just having a violent is a very violent landing in my opinion.
That's what that was kind of like my reaction. I was like, man, I was like, at first, I was like, first instinct was, I hope he's all right. And then they immediately cut to him and he was obviously fine in there. So that was, I mean, the reactions there live, but I'd never seen anything like it. I knew that wrecks in NASCAR obviously were a thing. I knew guys flip, but to actually see it happen live, it was definitely, like I said, like nothing I've ever seen before. I mean, there's really nothing to compare it to. Because, like you said, you're going almost 200 miles an hour, man. I mean, the fact that these cars are like almost perfectly engineered to got, I don't know how guys don't get injured, or don't, I don't want to say it, but like die. It's insane. But
Yeah. Ryan Priest did say like, we're gonna come to that point, and I don't want to be that person that has to face that repercussion because he's been in a lot of violent wrecks the past 2 years.
Yeah, I saw some of
It's,
the people talking about it. Yeah.
yeah, there are some of the replays that shown his couple wrecks from 2023, his 2024 wreck, and now this one. It's just, I do feel bad for him at some points. It's like, there's bad luck, and then there's that bad of bad luck where you're involved in like some sport changing incidents where NASCAR has to sit back and be like, "What are we gonna do? How can we fix this?" I remember Josh Berry tweeted maybe put another shark fin on top of the car because last year Corey LaJoy flipped. He self spawned himself and then ended up flipping. And then NASCAR's like, "Oh well, we'll just put a shark fin on the right side to combat the air." And then the literal next week at Daytona, Josh Berry, same exact thing, instance where he gets turned and his car still flips over, except with his flip over, he slid all the way into the inside wall, and his car pretty much just spun like a top for like 10 seconds.
That's insane.
So I don't know if NASCAR could do anything about this type of wreck. To be honest with you, now obviously everyone's been crying for years. We need to up the horsepower. We need to make the cars go faster. Because back in the early 2000s, whatnot, yeah, you did see like a lot of wrecks, but the energy would dissipate when the car would break away. So it's kind of a weird momentum thing. Obviously, like when you wreck going like that fast, it's gonna suck, but it's not gonna be as bad like for the people on the inside because when the car breaks away, all those parts and pieces are flying, especially like from the outside of the car. All the energy is being taken with it, so there's less energy being controlled inside.
Yeah.
It's like when people like crash a Cybertruck, they get more hurt than they would an actual car because that thing's like a tank. The energy's not dissipating. Now with these next gen cars, these cars are more built. They don't. NASCAR is like, for the future years, they're like, we want our drivers to have more durability. With more durability comes more injuries and lack of dissipation of that energy that they used to have. Does that make kind of like a little bit of sense to you?
Oh yeah, yeah,
And I mean, it's cool seeing cars, like kind of like still a little beat up, but survive those types of hits. But at the same time, we can only make a car as safe as we can until we can't.
yeah.
And that's kind of like something that I don't think people understand. Uh, Stop it. Because back in the day, also the cars of now, they're a lot slower than the cars that they used to have out. And I know with this Daytona weekend, you saw the cars, were like they were three ride racing pretty much the entire race.
Yeah.
And back in the day, it wasn't like that. The cars in the front could get separation from the cars in the back. And with those higher speed differentials, a lot of people were driving more careful because they didn't want to wreck.
Makes
And
sense.
so with
Which
all
is
that
what
space
happened.
so with all that space in between, the leaders can actually lead the race, with their fast cars, they're more controlled with it. Versus now where it's like, oh, you have to kind of play the draft of the air. You got to play, which line's going to hold and who's going to who push you and not wreck you essentially.
I was gonna say it almost like going into it. I saw a lot of people. You mentioned it, but just people in general, like certain drivers, seem to be more prone to causing accidents. There might be something there where I would hate to say more penalties, but if you're somebody that's like has a rep for being an accident causer, maybe those harsher penalties for that, make guys not like you said, back in the day, they had more speed, they were driving a little more cautiously as a result. Make guys think about that. I mean, I know there's a lot to think about in a race like this, but if you're one of those guys with that reputation of kind of causing accidents, um, give them a reason to not do that, you know what I mean? Or to think twice before they're willing to make a risky play or potentially intentionally cause a caution or try to take someone out. Um,
It is tough because so Joey Logano is one of those people who
that's
you
what I
just
had in
fear for
mind.
you just fear for your life on a super speedway, but he's not driving like, with intent to crash anybody per se.
Yeah,
Because there are penalties that uh, correlate to being a wrecking ball, essentially. And he's always been one of those guys that's like, throwing out a bad block, a late block. And as you saw over the weekend with him and Ricky Stenhouse,
we tried to
I
split.
seen, yeah, and a lot of people still blaming Stenhouse for that. But Kyle Busch was like, well, the 22 is trying to fit in a space that's not there,
I saw
and
that.
it's
Yep.
and instead of giving it up, he's still shoving. And as a result of him still shoving, everyone ends up getting turned behind him.
That was the big game changer too. I mean, I want to say that's the reason Byron won, but that was a big one.
Yeah, now Byron is he won back to back Daytonas, and which is pretty cool to say. I was very surprised that NASCAR did not throw a caution light out
I was too. I was actually really surprised, like shocked. I thought it was for sure happening, but
because that was a big wreck for them to not. And
it
it's
was the
very
biggest wreck of the night.
they've been very inconsistent with their cautions. They even said that the caution on the Xfinity race had to happen because they wrecked like right in front of the checkered flag with one to go, and you don't want people racing to the line with all those people
Yeah.
right there. So they have to call that one. The truck race shouldn't have called that one. That one was called way too early. That was like because that wreck was happening on the backstretch, and then they had called it. So now it's kind of like finding a fine line between like when do we get the caution, when do we let them play it out, and like obviously I think they should have called it for consistency reasons, but I get why they didn't. You want to have an exciting Daytona finish,
Yeah. Especially with the
even though
start.
Byron was kind of already going to win it from the start, but overall, it was one of the better Daytona experiences. Obviously, it's going to be different for me than it is for you because obviously I watch more NASCAR. I'm more tuned into it, and like this is your first year, so this was one of the better ones. But the faults of the car and the super speedway racing are still very much alive with how how the racing kind of is. It's not like just like a lot of spacing. It's just draft until a big accident happens, which it's kind of hard to have a little bit of enjoyment to be like, oh, well, my guy's doing good, or my guy's not doing so well in that for his this race because you can never like really tell like how much a car speed really impacts until until like that last wreck happens, and then it's pretty much just like okay, let's try to get this position.
Yeah, they also seem to have some interesting ways of dealing with the cars that were involved in a wreck in terms of who's allowed to come back and who's not or why and all that. I saw a couple of guys kind of complaining. I don't want to necessarily say complaining, but taking issue with how it was handled. And then unfortunately for Allmendinger to go out 42nd lap with engine issues. And I've heard that that's not a, f- a first for him, which
No,
is weird to me.
I will say though, with his 41st finish though, is he is officially one of the NASCAR drivers to finish in every position from first to 43rd.
Really? That's actually
That is
hilarious.
not a good. I don't know if that's a good stat, but I mean it's a stat.
So, I mean, how does that work out? Like, is it the Chevy? Is it his team? Like, how does he keep
It could
having these
just
issues?
it could just be the motor, honestly. I mean, every driver is going to go through it at some point with a mechanical issue.
Yeah.
Some people just have worse luck than others at that instance, but nah, especially with super speedway racing. 'Cause sometimes, yeah, because you're nose to nose on each other, right?
Yeah.
And you obviously you're a car guy. You've worked in the mechanic shops and whatnot. That radiator's got to have air to go through to feed the engine, and whether it's something electrical or he was just riding too tight, car could overheat, and his engine could just pretty much stall and blow up at that point.
Or like you said, it just wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, there's always like this like tiny components that just mess up the entire engine, especially racing at like 180 to 200 miles an hour constantly.
Oh yeah.
So obviously, it's unfortunate for him. Unfortunate for Helio. He was one of the drivers for Trackhouse, the '91 Wendy's Chevrolet. Um, Man, he caught like every week, all weekend.
Yeah.
It was hard to watch because it sucked because none of the wrecks were his fault. It was his first time driving a stock car, and it really is a painful time to just watch somebody just go through that kind of bad luck because of a lot of other people's mistakes.
Oh yeah. That is
Uh,
tragic.
Chastain wrecked out early. Cindric was one of the best drivers all night. He looked like him and Denny Hamlin were gonna have a race to the line. And Denny Hamlin even said it like Austin Cindric's average finishing position does not correlate to his driving because he is one of like the top 5 super speedway drivers in NASCAR right now.
He led for
Yeah,
59 laps. Second was Logano, 43 laps because he dominated stage one. Pretty much led the entire stage,
yep. And then he had that shift issue which caused the Chastain crash.
supposedly.
And then you had Cole Custer spotter who's spotting the wrong car on the last lap,
That's insane.
supposedly.
Supposedly.
It- yeah, and someone saying there's a little
In-
bit of a fix there because if you put a bet,
Investigating his bet. Yeah.
yeah, because if you put a bet in for Byron to win, then- but what's crazy is like you should know where your driver is at all times. The number's on the car,
Yeah. So somebody,
right?
yeah.
Not even
And
the
the
same shade of
spotter's
red.
sitting up high, right? With binoculars.
Yeah.
That's sketch.
So especially around like turns 3 and 4, there's 3 spots where the 24 is labeled both sides of the car and on the
On
top.
top.
There's no way you mix the 24 with the 41.
Now, if he said
And
42, it's like, all right, maybe you're just dyslexic, you know?
yeah, but obviously, he's telling Cole Custer inside clear. Obviously, not clear. Smacks Denny Hamlin, which smacks Austin Cindric, which on the top lane, is Byron and Tyler Reddick who passed through, and then Jimmy Johnson gets a surprise third. Unk still got it type meme.
Yeah, Briscoe slides into fourth, although didn't wind up mattering.
Yeah. And then Dale Jr. He has a top 10 car with the Justin Allgaier top who got ninth place. So now we're gonna be hearing maybe Junior Motorsports hitting the Cup Series hopefully soon.
Yeah, overall, I definitely enjoyed the whole experience. I mean, even with the delay, I mean, it was pretty much my entire Sunday, and I wasn't mad about it at all. Um, in terms of this weekend's race, the Atlanta race, uh, I'm still just not familiar, like you said, Cindric, one of the best, if not, the best super speedway racer. I still don't know where these guys shine and where they don't shine. Um, but I do for this upcoming race, just looking at what I saw from the previous race, I like Blaney. I like Briscoe, um, even though he cheated. Um, and Logano as well, even though he's apparently a human wrecking ball. I think
Well,
those
you
are three
saw
guys I'm looking at to potentially win this weekend.
you saw with the Penske drivers, the 2, 12, and 22, they pretty much dominated the entire weekend.
Yes.
They were on like when they connect, like those Fords are just something different. Like I don't and
I like my
Centric
Toyotas.
is Centric is like the lower end of the three drivers, like in terms of like worst to best. But he's not really a bad driver. It's just you have two cup champions from 2022, 3 and 4,
That is
you
impressive.
know. So it's kind of hard to, really like be a better driver in that instance,
Yeah.
or like try to like outshine like the rest of your peers. But that's not saying like he's no slouch or nothing. It's just more like he's just unlucky. But he's not going to lose his ride anytime soon. Type of
I would hope not. I mean, he shined on the super speedway this past weekend. But what you got any what are your predictions?
I do want to say Atlanta is Daniel Suarez's best track.
Okay.
He has an average finish of like 7.3 over
Okay.
his last two
Okay.
starts, and he did win it last year in a crazy finish with him, Blaney, and Kyle Busch, where they had that. I think I shared this with you. It was you remember that Cars picture, where they in the movie where they finish a three-way tie.
Yeah.
That was pretty much what happened last year, but Suarez beat Blaney by like 3 thousandths of a second, and then
Hmm.
Bush was like 7 thousandths of a second.
How's Elliott in Atlanta? I don't know. He seems like a pretty strong driver as well. Chase Elliott.
Chase Elliott, he's always going to have a strong car on, especially on these super speedways. He has an average finish of 8.6,
Oh wow. Okay. So
so
I got
definitely
that right.
close to a top 10.
I'd like to see my guy Ty Gibbs get in there, but I mean, he had a 16th finish. That's not bad by any means. Right behind Elliott, actually finished 15th.
At Daytona.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Um, but yeah, this is definitely Suarez's favorite better tracks. Although they do have Blaney and Logano being the race favorites to win.
Logano was very, very strong last weekend. Although I am a little confused here. How
Uh,
how does the point system work necessarily? Like Byron got 50 points, I'm assuming because he won. But why does Cindric have 48 even though he finished eighth? Is it because of
because
like
he
laps led?
because he has stage points. So stage points are like where you finish at.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like top 10 gets stage points, ten
Okay.
to one. So I think because of his stage points from 1 and 2, on top of his finishing position.
I just can't believe Logano doesn't have more total points himself then. Like I said, he dominated stage one. Led for
He
43
did, but then
laps the whole time.
he had that issue in stage 2 and then wrecked
Yeah,
out in stage 3.
that makes sense. Yeah, he didn't even finish 185. That makes sense.
And then this year they're doing a playoff point given for the fastest lap.
Yeah, who actually wound up getting that? I didn't see that.
Uh,
And I know you said that NASCAR fans aren't a big fan of it, but I actually kind of like that. I don't know why, but it sounds interesting to me.
Michael McDowell took the fastest lap,
Oh wow! I mean, he finished 11th.
but he's also a super speedway. Uh, he's like one of also the top super speedway racers. He has won Daytona as well as Austin Cindric before too, so makes sense. He's always one of the faster drivers on there. Him and Todd Gilliland is another one.
Very interesting indeed.
But who do you have for winners for this week's and Better Health 400 at Atlanta?
Ah, I picked three guys earlier that I felt like were strong this past weekend. Hmm.
So I will say Suarez won the spring race and Joey Logano won
I
the
was
fall.
I was gonna take Logano. Logano, Elliott, Bush.
Which is a good one.
I like those three this weekend.
I'm gonna say Christopher Bell, Austin Cindric, and William Byron. I think Byron can go back to back.
That would be interesting.
Not off of luck, but actually having a fast car and being competitive. Now, my long shot would be Daniel Suarez, of course.
Yeah.
I don't because I don't. It's hard to bet against somebody who is very consistently good at one racetrack.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like you said, they have their strengths and their weaknesses. But speaking of strengths and weaknesses, is Bubba Wallace overrated?
Yes, in the sense that he doesn't have enough wins to really back up his driving ability. Obviously, he got first in the second night of the Daytona duels. I think I'm pretty sure it was the second night, or not the second night, the second race of the Daytona duels, which is cool on its own because you get a trophy, but it's not like you won like a actual race.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you just won a Daytona 500. You just kind of won the manufacturing duel for the Daytona 500, and you get a better qualifying spot. Um, I think he only has like what 1 or 2 career wins.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I knew the name going in, obviously not for good reasons, unfortunately. Um, but
But I
I
would
kept
be
my
lying if
eye on him. Go ahead.
I would be lying if I didn't say he has gotten better as a driver throughout the course of like the past 2 years. But I think this year is kind of more of a make or break year for him.
How old is he?
He's like 28, 29.
Oh, okay.
I would assume.
I mean, like I said, I like the Toyotas, and he is whipping a Toyota.
He's
But
31.
oh, okay. So he's older. He's older, or not older, but you know what I mean. Um, he just seemed very, very average, very mid. He kind of seemed to float right middle of the. Well, I guess 15, 16 is the middle of the pack with 41 cars.
So when you look at his teammate Tyler Reddick, he was just in a championship for last year. He wins about 2 3 races a year.
Okay.
You know, he's a really good driver. He just got second in Daytona, of course.
Yeah.
But but when you have a teammate who's winning all those races in the same car, and you're not really winning any races. And now they have a third driver with Riley Herbst. So if Riley does better than Bubba Wallace this year, that's a problem.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Austin Centric deal, but Centric's driving with championship teammates. So his situation's a lot different than what Bubba is currently in.
Now Herbst did finish. He finished the race though. Wallace wrecked out at 197, but Wallace did at least lead for 18 laps, whereas Herbst didn't have any lead laps. And Reddick also did not have any laps led. So
But Riley Herbst did save it on that final lap. Too. He as soon as they crossed the white flag, he slid in that infield, but he managed to save the car
yeah,
from actually wrecking. So in a way, kind of saved himself from being involved in a huge wreck and was able to just pass through the carnage.
I'm just curious to see where Wallace would have finished if he finished the race. Because he did have he was coming on strong there down the stretch. He actually, I think that's where a handful of his laps led were. He pulled, but then he also kind of fell back again. So I just feel like he has a very big name, but just I wasn't very impressed on Sunday.
Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of drivers and take different strategies. Like I said, Daytona is the first race, and it's kind of hard to like really gauge a driver's year off of a super speedway.
Ah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
as soon as we get out of the super speedways and we go to the intermediates and the shorts, we'll actually see like where these drivers are standing for the year in terms of speed and ability to put themselves in position
Looking
to
forward
win,
to
of
it.
course.
I am. I'm looking forward to it.
But Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about before we ended this podcast?
Nothing in particular except for we will be live every race. So mostly on Sundays until the last two races of the season. They're both going to be on a Saturday. But we are going to be live for them with some live commentary and reactions. And that is it for me. Vic, do you have any closing statements?
Do you have anything about your gaming streams that you wanted to talk
Uh, Nothing really in particular. We're getting closer to Monster Hunter Wilds release, and I will be doing that on launch. Right now, I'm playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, even though the first stream was last Saturday and it got cut very short because I had a family emergency, which is we're all good there. But yeah, I will be back tomorrow with, I guess, officially the real KCD2 first stream. But nothing in particular. We stay on top of these new releases and we crank them out, man.
about? I know that I figured I'd try to see what you're kind of doing in that aspect. I know you haven't streamed for about a week
Yeah,
outside
yeah.
of NASCAR, of course.
Yeah, I had a very busy week. I mean, the family emergency was a relative close by called me and their pipe burst, so basement flooded. So I've been there the entire week doing a bunch of demo remediation stuff like that. So that is why I have not done really anything gaming related since that stream. I got the call on stream, but we will be back tomorrow, and yeah, I'm actually looking forward to it. I was having a lot of fun with the game before that happened, um, but this is actually going to be a pretty exciting year for games. There's a lot of really good games coming out, and I will be playing pretty much all of them.
Did you see the state of play?
I did. I did see the state
I,
of play.
I will be honest with you, I did not see that. So, do you want to tell me what happened with it? Because a lot of people were not happy. Outside of I play Rainbow Six Siege,
Yeah.
and Siege X is coming, and it's not like
Hey.
it's not like like Overwatch 2 or Counter Strike 2, or it's like a they'll label it as something else. They're just saying this is going to be a revamped Rainbow Six Siege in terms of like they're going to redo the colors, the system, the integration, like all that type of stuff, and bump up their anti cheat. Their anti
Right.
cheats are already really good, but
It's like the CS2 update, really. It's almost like the same thing.
it's almost like it's like a remaster pretty much.
Yeah.
But they said themselves that this is not a second game. Don't think this is Rainbow
Yeah.
Six Siege 2.
So that the upset thing is kind of just the terminally online folk. Um Really what people were upset was there were no big first party Sony announcements except for a brand new game called Sorrows coming in 2026, I believe, so next year. It is House Mark, so it is the same team that made Returnal, and it's not Returnal 2, but it's very much a Returnal successor. It's going to have very similar gameplay. We didn't see any gameplay. That's just what they said, out of their mouth. We saw like a cinematic trailer. Um, but it actually, honestly, it was a pretty good state of play. It was a lot of third party stuff, which is perfectly fine. But that's like the current critique with this generation, especially when in terms of PlayStation, is that there's not enough first parties, not enough, God of Wars and stuff like that. But when you stack up the first 4 years of PlayStation 4, so last gen, and you stack it up with the releases for this current gen PS5, they're pretty much neck and neck in terms of first party output. So I think what has kind of made it feel not so much like that is the fact that so many people were and kind of still are on last gen. So they're still playing PS4, they're still playing Xbox One. So games are still releasing for those platforms. But we have gotten quite a few big first party games: Ragnarok, Spider Man 2, Horizon Forbidden West. So it's a little bit blown out of proportion. People were expecting a really big state of play. A lot of people were hoping for finally potentially the Bloodborne potential remaster or update. That obviously didn't happen. Myself included, were maybe fingers crossed that we'd finally get some Resident Evil 9 news. That didn't happen. Um, but yeah, I think just people set their expectations a little crazy for that state of play. I saw some tweets beforehand, um, and it just didn't come close to those expectations. But really, we got a lot of really good games coming. We do. Um, Several different genres too. I mean, we got some platformers, some action adventures, some Souls like, and then we already have a couple of games coming out here soon. Split Fiction, which is the same team that did It Takes Two. It's their new game. It actually looks really cool. We did finally get a Borderlands release date. And they also told us that in, I believe, the springtime, there's going to be another state of play, but it's kind of like a Borderlands 4 state of play. So that's pretty sweet. Um, I think what was the Borderlands 4 release date? I think it was September, right? It
It was.
is, where is it? Yep, September 23rd is the official release date for Borderlands 4. And we also know a lot of people were hoping for some Gran Turismo, some Grand Theft Auto 6 news. We didn't get that, but the Borderlands 4 news does kind of give us some GTA 6 news in general. So we know that it's coming this year. We also know that they explicitly stated that they wanted to give breathing room between Borderlands 4 and Grand Theft Auto 6. We also know Grand Theft Auto 6 is supposed to be a fall release. So, considering Borderlands 4 is coming at the end of September, I think we're looking at a November window because December is officially winter, and that's officially, in my humble opinion, too late. So I do think that a nice November window for Grand Theft Auto 6 is very much so on the table and highly likely at this point because it's not going to be summer. Um, so yeah, I mean, overall, that's kind of where we were at. People were expecting a lot of big, I saw rumors that there was going to be a God of War trilogy remake. People were just had super high expectations and it didn't hit that. But there's a lot of really good games coming. And coming this year, the only really like next year thing was the Sorrows thing, which was actually a pretty big announcement. So yeah, overall, solid 7 or an 8. It was. It was a decent play. It was a decent showcase. Um, and I'd already kind of had a pretty busy plan for gaming this year. But it got even busier. You know, I don't play Call of Duty anymore, so it's a lot of single player, story driven games for me, and they definitely are throwing some more on my plate this year. So I'm looking forward to it.
Did you hear about the Max Payne remasters?
I did not actually.
I saw there's a rumor that they were gonna remaster one and two.
That would
That'd
actually
be
be
pretty
really
cool.
sweet. It would. I'm really looking forward to Battlefield, the new Battlefield as well. I don't believe that's coming this year. It's possible, but I don't think that's going to happen. Um, we need some competition in the FPS genre, and I don't mean another hero shooter. So, Borderlands being a looter shooter and really the only, I don't want to say the only one of its kind, but the only one of its kind to that AAA scale. That's a fun game, especially to play with friends. We need like a COD competitor, even though Battlefield, not really Call of Duty like, but it's more competitive to Call of Duty than anything else that's currently out. Um, so I am looking forward to that. But there's just a lot of really good single and co op games coming out this year soon. So that's really where I'm at right now. A lot of story driven single player games, and I'm having a blast.
You gotta start picking up the pace. So you don't
I
get behind.
I do. I mean, I'm already dangerously close to falling behind because, from what I understand, KCD2 is like a solid. With how I play, it's going to be like a solid 60 to like 80 hour experience, similar to my Forbidden West playthrough. And Monster Hunter Wilds is scheduled for release in 7 days. So we'll see. Um,
That's pretty much all I had. If you want, close this out real quick.
yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate. Maybe we can start talking about a little more gaming nowadays with football kind of on the back burner until at least probably until the draft. But that will do it. This is actually a nice solid episode. So I appreciate you for your hour and 40 minutes tonight. And we will see you guys next week.